Please be seated. Good evening and welcome to the Wadsworth High School 1996 Baccalaureate program. At this time, I would like to introduce to you the senior class secretary, Julie Prochowski.
From the dawn of our existence, there was a plan for us. Our parents had a plan, and as we grew older, we developed our own individual plans. From the time that we were very little, our parents began noticing our strengths and our talents. During our early years, our parents instructed us and tried to mold and strengthen these talents. As we grew older, we attended school where our teachers tackled the responsibility of guiding us along the paths that could best develop these talents and skills. While on our journeys to these paths, we have met some wonderful people and have had some valuable experiences which have impacted our lives. We have had teachers that have taught us how to think and how to use our intelligence to our utmost abilities. We have had friends that have taught us the meaning of love and understanding and have instilled in us the true value of a friend. We have met various community members, friends, children, and teachers who have shown us their courageous behavior and the will to fight for accomplishments and success. In addition, most of us have had caring families who are devoted to us and our happiness. Yet at the times when we were struggling through the difficulties of life and were being blown about like the grains of sand on the beach, there was someone who was carrying each of us to the various places in the sand on which we landed. God has a plan for all of us. For example, when we were very young and our parents noticed our talents and tried to shape these talents, that was a part of God's plan. And as the years followed and our teachers began guiding us along the different paths that we have chosen, that too was a part of God's plan. In the same way, the impressions from experiences that have impacted our lives and the love and will to be courageous that we have received from influential people was a blessing from God and a part of His plan. You see, what we forget from day to day is that there is a plan for all of us, and that every step we take will eventually lead us to our paths in life. Someone once told me that we are all like grains of sand. We all start deep beneath the surface, like the packed sand at the bottom of the ocean, and through years of learning, growing, and experiencing, we rise to the top. When we are seniors, like grains of sand on the surface, we are all blown and scattered several different places. Even though the scattering seems random, it is not. We all find our specific places, and all the people and experiences in our lives have helped us reach this destination. So tonight, as we look back over the years and the times that we have spent together, and as we anticipate what is to come, let us remember that like a grain of sand, there is a plan and a purpose for each one of us, and that with God's loving guidance, we will reach our destinations. Thank you.
Song I wrote for the class 96. It's come to me as sort of like an inspiration through everything that all of you have given me, through everything all my parents have given me. Everyone who has a place in my life and in each other's lives. And I'd like to dedicate this all to all of you. It's called Reaching Out.
snapshot catharsis. Suddenly, you stop counting the days. You realize the clock never really mattered the way it did when you spent yesterday thinking about today, and today of tomorrow, and who you should follow. For a second there, you stop, a rush and a push, and the land that you stand on is yours. And ever so slightly, you turn toward parts of the world that you still haven't met, and your favorite book that you haven't read yet. You grab hold of the moment when the value of a second has changed.
One at a time. A friend of ours was walking down a deserted Mexican beach at sunset. As he walked along, he began to see another man in the distance. As he grew nearer, he noticed that a local native kept leaning down, picking something up, and throwing it out into the water.
Time and again, he kept hurling things out into the ocean. As our friend approached even closer, he noticed that the man was picking up starfish that had been washed up on the beach, and, one at a time, he was throwing them back into the water. Our friend was puzzled. He approached the man and said, "Good evening, friend. I was wondering what you were doing." "I'm throwing these starfish back into the ocean. You see, it's low tide right now, and all these starfish have been washed up on the shore. If I don't throw them back into the sea, they'll die up here from lack of oxygen." "I understand," my friend replied, "but there must be thousands of starfish on this beach. You can't possibly get to all of them. There's simply too many. And don't you realize that this is probably happening on hundreds of beaches all up and down the coast? Can't you see that you can't possibly make a difference?" The local native smiled, bent down and picked up yet another starfish, and as he threw it back into the sea, he replied, "It made a difference to that one."
Good evening. I am Leslie Cridgefield, the Associate Pastor of First Christian Church here in Wadsworth. And I am honored to have been invited to be your speaker this evening. Some of you may know that my own daughter, Kirsty, is in the graduating class this year. So this class is very special to me personally. I have joy in my heart and tears in my eyes as I address you this evening. Some of you members of this class have been at my home for pizza and slumber parties, to watch videos and study physics, or just to play pool. Just this past weekend, I met with a number of you at the home of a friend to take pictures of you in your prom dresses and tuxedos. But today is a day when we'll begin to look forward together, not backward. And as the choir sang so beautifully, you are at a time in your lives when you want to be set free to find your calling. And you're beginning that all-important journey to do that. What came to my mind in thinking about your journey was that old movie classic, The Wizard of Oz, with Judy Garland. And there were 4 main characters in that movie that we'll talk about tonight. And we will see how you are like them and how you are not like them. Those 4 characters followed the yellow brick road to their destiny. Do you remember? Follow the yellow brick road. Now, one character in the movie sang a little ditty, and some of you may remember it. It goes like this. I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain. Do you remember who that was? Who was he? Just call it out. The Scarecrow, that's right. See, you didn't know you're getting a pop quiz today. Well, unlike the Scarecrow, you already have a brain. God has provided you with a brain. And you have studied for the last 4 years, and I can attest to that from the study sessions at my house. You have stuffed your brains full of knowledge. Math and science, physics and auto mechanics, geometry, biology, computer and Spanish and cosmetology. You've been preparing all this time for the knowledge and the brains you will need to begin that journey down the yellow brick road. How wonderful for you that you have had all this time and opportunity to develop your brains. I was privileged to attend the Senior Awards Assembly right here in this gym 2 weeks ago and to see firsthand the achievements of this class. Many of you won awards and scholarships and accolades for your academic accomplishments over the last 4 years. You've been fortunate to attend one of the finest high schools in the state, and you have gathered enough knowledge here to graduate and move on. You have the ability to think and the ability to learn. And that's one of the most important skills you will need on this life's journey, the ability to keep on learning. Thank God He has provided you with opportunities to develop this skill of learning. Now, who's the next character we can remember from The Wizard of Oz? He sang, "When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. Just because I'm presuming that I could be kinda human if I only had a heart." Who is that? That Tin Man. Good. Well, unlike the Tin Man, God has already given you your hearts. And that's obvious because you have done everything in the last 4 years with tremendous heart. You have played all kinds of sports: basketball, football, wrestling, cross country. You've participated in debate and band and cheerleading. And you have presented wonderful dramas and plays, musicals and concerts. You have sung, danced, played, and competed with all the heart necessary to succeed. And your hearts have had love poured into them. And look around you. The love of your parents, your grandparents, your siblings and friends, teachers, coaches, ministers. All of us have loved you well, and we hope that your hearts are filled with that love. And surely that's another important quality that you must possess as you move through life, the ability to love and be loved. Thank God He has provided you with opportunities to develop this love. Another character I bet you know from the movie sang this. "I'm afraid there's no denying, I'm just a dandelion, a fate I don't deserve. But I could show my prowess, be a lion, not a mouse, if I only had the nerve." Who is that? The lion. And he wanted courage. Well, unlike the lion, God has already given you courage. And I'm not talking about courage with a capital C, the kind of courage where you run into a burning building and save a baby. I'm talking about courage with a small c, the courage to keep going day to day. Look at the things you have already been through in your young lives. Many of you have had difficulties and obstacles to get where you are today. Perhaps there's been a divorce in your family, an illness, a financial setback. Maybe you've suffered an injury in sports, or you've had to have surgery. Perhaps your studies were difficult and you needed special help or tutoring. Some of you may have had your hearts broken by a boyfriend or girlfriend. But you have kept going. And you are here today, graduating from high school, looking forward, because you have courage. Your courage has carried you to this point and will continue to carry you into the future. Thank God He has provided you with opportunities to develop this courage. Finally, there's one more character from The Wizard of Oz, and she sang, "Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I dreamed of once in a lullaby." And who is that? Of course, Dorothy. And Dorothy was homeward bound, as our song said, trying to find her way home. Dorothy even had some magical ruby slippers to help her do that. But wait a minute. You don't have any ruby slippers. I don't see a single pair of ruby slippers. How are you, graduating class of '96, going to find your way home without any ruby slippers? I believe that you have something more valuable than magical ruby slippers. God has provided you with roots and wings. And those roots are deep and strong and healthy, and they will nourish you. And they go into your community of Wadsworth and into your school, Wadsworth High School, into your families and friends and homes. And we today, as your teachers and coaches and ministers, parents and grandparents, have tried hard all these years to give you those roots. We have loved you. We have encouraged you, taught you, coached you, scolded you, corrected you, hugged and affirmed you. And now today we are seeing those deep, healthy roots grow into wings right before our eyes. And these are the wings that will carry you to your destination as you look toward your future today. Those wings will be borne up underneath by your God-given brains and hearts and courage. But if you'll excuse me now, I want to say a few words to your parents on the subject of these wings. Parents, I recently read a little story that illustrates so well what our role must be now. Listen to this. Confined to bed by a sunlit window, a sick man had hours to spend. Noticing a moth cocoon on the windowsill, he watched the miracle of metamorphosis unfold. Painstakingly, the moth struggled to emerge from its shell. As the hours dragged by, the man became convinced that the moth was stuck and seemed to be struggling in vain. In an effort to set the flying creature free, the man reached over with a pair of scissors and snipped the cocoon opening slightly larger. Suddenly uninhibited, the moth crawled out. But instead of spreading its wings and taking flight, it could only crawl. The struggle had been necessary because the agonizing hours of hard work to escape would have served to strengthen and shape the wings. The easy escape left the moth's wings useless. Sometimes the hard way turns out to be the only way. So parents, now we must stand back and watch our young men and young women as they work and struggle and practice using their new wings. And our role is not to make it easy for them, but to love them enough to let them go so they can continue to develop their brains, their love, their courage, their wings. So, class of '96, off you go down the yellow brick road, trying out your brand new wings. But where are you going? Unlike Dorothy, you are not homeward bound back to the farm in Kansas today. You are homeward bound, as the song said, but it's a destination unlike any other you have ever had in your young lives. Your destination is to find yourselves, your calling, and your destiny. Each one of you has a special and unique destiny. Some will go from here to college or to the service. Some will begin to work at jobs. Some will even marry and establish their own homes and families. You will become the future nurses, lawyers, auto mechanics, hairdressers. You will be doctors and teachers and speech therapists and musicians. And you will be mothers and fathers and pastors and coaches yourselves someday. But you're not in a fantasy movie like The Wizard of Oz. You are entering real life. And in real life, we know that there is heartache and joy, problems and difficulties, marriage and births, divorces, jobs and mortgages. And you will need every ounce of that God-given courage, brains, and heart. You will need your roots and your wings. Thank God you have been prepared and equipped in these ways to go forward into that exciting adventure down the yellow brick road known as life. Well, I have one final thought from The Wizard of Oz. You may remember in the movie that Glenda, the good witch, tells Dorothy, "You have always had the power within yourself to find your way home." In other words, to find yourself. And when Dorothy is asked what she has learned through her experiences, she says, "If I ever go looking for my heart's desire, I won't look any farther than my own backyard." So the power to find your destiny, your home, yourself, lies within each of you. Don't forget, there's no place like home. And it is the home in here that includes your gifts and talents, being comfortable with who you are, being a productive member of society, and living, loving, and learning throughout this journey we call life. Let me close with one final thought I want to share. And when I was a young woman, about your age, I kept a notebook full of sayings and poetry that I particularly liked. And at one time I found a beautiful Irish blessing, which I recorded in that notebook. It seems fitting today that this blessing, which meant so much to me as a young woman, I now share with you, class of 1996, a class which means so much to me. As you follow your yellow brick road to your destiny, remember these words. May the road, the yellow brick road, rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall softly upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Amen. At this time, class members would like to make a special presentation to honor those persons who have had the most significance in their lives. I now invite the class members to come forward. May the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you. May the presence of God watch over you now and forevermore. Amen and amen.
Please rise.